Now, this is one of 4 BSA A65s I've been working on recently, and in fact one of the others is right here next to it. Anyway, this is the one that we're going to be discussing. I've totally stripped and rebuilt the engine, and this is one that came here with rather a lot of crankshaft end float. It had 1.5mm of end float, which can be seen in another video that I made where I actually have the dial gauge on the end of the crank, and you can see for yourselves in that video that it had terrible end float. It turned out that the thrust bearing on the timing side had broken up into 4 pieces and was in the bottom of the engine, and there was no shim cup and only one tiny shim on the drive side end of the crankshaft in the main bearing, so the crank was just hammering around from side to side in there so much that it actually cracked. On this journal here, this big end journal, I don't know how well the camera will pick it up, but it's actually cracked about 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through, so it was just about ready to snap the crankshaft. So I got that out and got another crankshaft which was in good shape, and it checked, and the journals just needed a polish, so that's in there now. And actually it's got standard size big end journals and a standard size timing side journal, so that's good news. On top of that, some absolute gorilla did this to the aluminium big end cap on one of the conrods. Looks like they've taken a grinder to it for some reason. They've actually ground about 5 or 6mm of thickness of the cap off. So I got another conrod as well for it, so there's no way I was going to put that back in. Lastly, the oil pump. The owner assured me that he'd been led to believe there was an SRM oil pump in there. Well, there wasn't. It was just a very tired old factory oil pump, which is very, very stiff and almost impossible to turn. So it has now got an SRM oil pump in it, which the owner bought and had sent here. So the next thing to do is see if we can get this one started. I haven't tried to start it yet, so the ignition timing, it's got an electronic ignition on it, it's just set roughly where it should be good enough to start up, and it'll probably need strobing in, and also any fine adjustments needed on the carburetors will have to be done later, but again I've got them set up roughly where I think they should be, and both slides are moving in unison, so probably only be tick over and maybe mixture screws to adjust there. So I've got plenty of oil in the oil tank now, and it's all primed through the oil pump and everything. So I'm going to put the camera down over here, and let's see what happens when I try and start it. No tricks, I haven't started this one before since the rebuild, so let's see. All run through, carburetors will be empty for oil. Carbs on it. Switch on, see what happens. Okay, well that's not bad at all for a first attempt. I'll have to just screw the tick over screws in a little bit, and yes, it looks very promising. It's a good point to stop at anyway, and just sort of let it cool off again now, and then I'll fire it up again and just make sure that the oil is all circulating as it should, etc. And let's see if I can actually get a small screwdriver here and just give that one a quarter of a turn, and the one round here the same. I'll put the camera back down for a moment and just try again. And have a look in the oil tank and hopefully see oil returning. Still, obviously I'm going to have to check the ignition timing, make sure that that's right, and maybe fine tune the carburetors, but this is good. We've got a very strong, healthy oil return there. Hopefully the camera will pick that up. I can see it. It should just about be visible, I would think. Sounds a bit better than it did last time I heard it running anyway. Hopefully this time the bike will actually be as good as it looks. Nice and clean, we haven't got smoke all over the place. I think what I'll do now is I'll switch off and just check over a few things. I'll check the ignition timing, and then the next stage should be to take it for a short test ride, which should be quite enjoyable. I'm very happy with that anyway. I don't always start off that well, and that was literally the first time I tried to start it. So I'm pretty chuffed with that, and hopefully when he gets it back the owner will be too. Anyway, the next video may well be a ride on this machine, which I'm looking forward to, so watch this space.